Tonight on KGW News, confronting the gunman who tried to kill them.
Can you describe your pain? And the answer to that question is no.
What survivors of the Normandale Park shooting told the man who took their friend's life. Also tonight, call it campfire in a cup. Why researchers say there's a chance wine tainted by wildfire smoke can be salvaged. Plus, an apology from Legacy when executives are promising to reopen the East County Birth Center. But first, remembering a young mother murdered outside her home.
She's an awesome mom. Yeah, she's an awesome mom. She loved her kids so much.
Family and neighbors grapple with grief as they wait for justice for April. Good evening, and we begin with loved ones gathering at a vigil for that Portland mother. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. April Newcomb Cripe leaves behind 2 young children and a neighborhood and community that are seeking justice and answers. Catherine Cook takes us there.
Heavy rain.
It's too bad she was taken so soon.
And heavy hearts.
We all want her back here with us.
At the Wimbledon Square and Gardens Apartments in Southeast Portland, loved ones gathered to remember 28-year-old April Newcomb Cripe. Police say the mother of 2 was shot and killed here Saturday night.
She's an awesome mom. And her babies miss her so much.
April's mom, Tanya, misses her baby.
It's just not right. No mother should have to bury their child.
This apartment complex is on Southeast 28th and Colt Drive, near Reed College. Officers responded here around 11:30 Saturday night. They found April's body, but said any suspects had left before they arrived. Friends say nothing mattered more to April than her children, a 6-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy. They're with family members now, facing indescribable loss. What led up to the shooting is unclear. Police haven't released many details, and so far they haven't made any arrests. But they are asking for the public's help. Loved ones hope that anyone with information about April's death will do the right thing and tell police.
The person needs to be caught.
While they wait for justice, April's friends are doing everything they can to help. They started a GoFundMe to raise money for funeral and family expenses. They say April always stepped up to help friends in need. A true light in the darkness.
She spread a light around this world that we were blessed to be able to know.
Yeah. In Southeast Portland, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
New tonight, Legacy Health has announced it will reopen its Mount Hood Medical Birth Center by July at the very latest. In a letter, the community Legacy COO apologized for the stress, confusion, and disruption caused by the closure for both employees and patients. Jonathan Avery said the goal now is to, quote, rebuild trust as we move forward together, end quote. Legacy previously said it is working out the reopening details and will submit a plan to the Oregon Health Authority. As we have extensively reporting, the Gresham facility closed on March 17th without official approval from the OHA. Patients in East Multnomah County have since been diverted to Randall Children's Hospital for labor and delivery services. Let's get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now. Detectives have identified a body found on an abandoned property in Ridgefield and are calling it a homicide. Officers say they found the remains of 32-year-old Joanna Speaks on April 8th near a barn on South 5th Street. Investigators say Speaks was not killed at that location. It appears her body was moved there. Anyone with information is being asked to call the Clark County Sheriff's Office. An update from Portland Police East Precinct on another stolen vehicle operation. Officers say out of 33 stops on Saturday, they recovered 14 stolen vehicles, made 11 arrests, and got a hold of 2 firearms. Now, PPB has been doing focused missions using data science to focus on vehicles that are likely stolen. Before switching to this approach, police found roughly 1 stolen car for every 31 they stopped. And in Eastern Oregon, more than a dozen law enforcement vehicles turned out to escort the body of Reserve Police Officer Corporal Joseph Johnson. Johnson, who was with the Nissa Police Department, was fatally shot on patrol over the weekend when he was dispatched to reports of a man damaging cars with a hammer. The suspect, later identified as Rene Castro, took off in a vehicle. Authorities saying Johnson chased him until he stopped fleeing. At that point, Castro allegedly shot and killed Johnson.
Me, my staff, and my team, and our community is going to take a long time to recover. I don't think it's ever going to be fully recovered.
Police found Castro 2 days later hiding in a home in Ontario. He appeared in court today to face charges that include murder and possession of a firearm. It was a shooting that shook the community, and this afternoon, the man who pulled the trigger as a racial justice protest was getting underway in Portland's Normandale Park, killing one woman, learned he'll likely spend the rest of his life in prison. Ahead of that sentence, survivors and witnesses of the trauma 14 months on shared some of their stories. Alma McCarty was in the courtroom.
February 19th was a day that was a traumatic and horrible event, is the only way to sum it up.
Because June Knightley did not survive. The 60-year-old was shot at close range and murdered by Benjamin Smith, a man who prosecutors say confronted a group February 2022 at Normandale Park as the women prepared to provide traffic safety for a racial justice protest.
Ben Smith, you saw a group of unarmed, friendly, powerful women and sought to steal their life from them. I remember asking you when I arrived and witnessed you screaming and pointing your finger at June through her window, if you really felt good about intimidating a bunch of women.
How are you supposed to de-escalate someone who doesn't want to be de-escalated? How can you feel like you said or did the right thing ever again, knowing that no matter what you did in that moment, you were not able to stop your friends from dying, sustaining life-changing injuries?
Smith has pleaded guilty to Knightley's murder and to shooting 4 other people. One of those survivors testifying virtually.
I was shot in the neck and paralyzed on February 19th, 2022. I don't know if I will ever fully recover my voice because I'm still unable to breathe on my own.
And another survivor shared some of what she recorded on her helmet camera that night.
Most of what you'll hear on this audio is my voice. It's a short compilation. It's just a few minutes of an unfathomable nightmare that spun out far longer.
Dude, stay with me, okay? I'm right here. Is there an ambulance coming?
After more than an hour, Smith's attorney addressed the courtroom.
Mr. Smith just, there are no words, just unfathomable remorse that he has for what he did to these folks. So,
Nothing?
we have...
You got nothing?
Not even sorry.
People clearly upset and disappointed despite his lawyer's statements. The perpetrator who impacted so many lives had absolutely nothing to say. The judge sentenced Smith to life in prison with the possibility of parole only after 55 years. Alma McCarty, KGW News.
Let's get to national headlines now. Fox News and Dominion Voting Systems have reached a last-minute $787 million settlement in Dominion's lawsuit against that network. The sudden agreement came after the jury was seated just before opening statements were about to get underway in the defamation trial. Now, through depositions, discovery, and the trial judge's ruling so far, the case exposed how Fox News hosts promoted false claims that blamed Dominion for former President Trump's loss to President Joe Biden. The judge emphasizing it was, quote, crystal clear that none of those claims were true. Now, here's how a lawyer for Dominion reacted.
Today's settlement of $787,500,000 represents vindication and accountability. Lies have consequences.
Well, in a statement, Fox said, quote, we acknowledge the court's rulings finding certain claims about Dominion to be false. That's the entirety of it right there. Dominion also has lawsuits pending against other conservative news outlets it says promoted election conspiracies. We've got an update tonight on magic mushrooms, with the Oregon Health Authority licensing the first 3 facilitators for psilocybin treatment. The state is currently working on getting its program for psilocybin therapy up and running. Voters approved this back in 2020. Though keep in mind, the measure does not fully legalize magic mushrooms, instead allows their use in a controlled medical setting. Facilitators kind of describe it as a therapeutic journey. Research suggests they might help with depression, addiction, and PTSD. In Washington, a bill the Attorney General says would close the gap on health data privacy protections is now headed To the governor's desk, the bill prevents data linked to reproductive and gender-affirming care from being sold or shared without consent. The measure also requires disclosures and creates ways to enforce that law.